The Deathly Hallows? That's right. You haven't heard of them. I'm not surprised. Very, very few wizards believe. Witness that knuckle-headed young man at your brother's wedding, who attacked me for sporting a symbol of a well-known dark wizard. Such ignorance! There is nothing dark about the Hallows. At least, not in that crude sense. One simply uses the symbol to reveal oneself to other believers, in hopes that they might help one with the quest. I'm sorry, I don't really understand. Well, you see, believers seek the Hallows.
But what are the Deathly Hallows?
I assume that you are all familiar with the tale of the three brothers? No.
Yes.
Wait, why did you two say yes? Well, Mr. Potter, the whole thing starts with the tale of the three brothers. I have a copy somewhere.
Oh, I have a copy, Mr. Lovegood. I've got it right here.
The original? Well, then, why don't you read it aloud? Much the best way to make sure we all understand.
All right. There was once three brothers who was traveling along a lonely, winding road at twilight.
Midnight, our Mum always told us. Sorry, I think it's a bit spooky if it's midnight.
Yeah, because we all need a little more fear in our lives.
Go on, Hermione.
In time, the brothers reached a river too deep to wade through and too dangerous to swim across. However, these brothers were learned in magical arts, and so they simply waved their wands and made a big bridge appear across the treacherous water. They were halfway across when they found their path blocked by a hooded figure, and Death spoke to them.
Sorry, Death spoke to them?
It's a fairy tale, Harry.
Right, sorry. Go on.
And Death spoke to them. He was angry that he had been cheated out of 3 new victims for travelers usually drowned in the river, but Death was cunning. He pretended to congratulate the 3 brothers upon their magic, and said that each had earned a prize for having been clever enough to evade him. So the eldest brother, who was a combative man, asked for a wand more powerful than any in existence, a wand that must always win their duels for its owner, a wand worthy of a wizard who had conquered Death. So Death crossed to an elder tree on the banks of the river, fashioned a wand from a branch that hung there, and gave it to the oldest brother. Now, the second brother, who was an arrogant man, decided that he wanted to humiliate Death still further, and he asked for the power to recall others from death. So Death picked up a stone from the river bank and gave it to the second brother, and told him that the stone would have the power to bring back the dead. And then Death asked the third youngest brother what he would like. The youngest brother was the humblest and so the wisest of the brothers. So he asked for something that would enable him to go forth from that place without being followed by Death. And Death, most unwillingly, handed over his cloak of invisibility.
Death's got an invisibility cloak? So he can sneak up on people. Sometimes he gets bored of running at them, flapping his arms and shrieking. Sorry, Hermione.
Then Death stood aside and allowed the 3 brothers to continue on their way. And they did so, talking with wonder of the adventure they had had, and admiring Death's gifts. In due course, the brothers separated, each for his own destination. The first brother travelled for a week or more, and reaching a distant village sought a fellow wizard with whom he had quarrelled. Naturally, with the elder wand as his weapon, he could not fail to win the duel that followed. Leaving his enemy dead upon the floor, the oldest brother proceeded to an inn, where he boasted loudly of the powerful wand and that he had snatched from Death, and how it made him invincible. That very night another wizard crept upon the eldest brother, as he lay wine-sodden upon his bed. The thief took the wand, and for good measure slit the oldest brother's throat. And so Death took the first brother for his own. Meanwhile the second brother journeyed to his own home, where he lived alone. Here he took out the stone and had the power to recall Death, and turned it thrice in his hand. To his amazement, and to his delight, the figure of the girl he had once hoped to marry before her ultimate death appeared at once before him. Yet she was sad and cold, separated from him by a veil. Though she had returned to the mortal world, she did not truly belong there, and suffered. Finally the second brother, driven mad with hopeless longing, killed himself as to truly join her. And so Death took the second brother for his own. But though Death searched for the third brother for many years, he was never able to find him. It was only when he had attained a great age, and the youngest brother finally took off the invisibility cloak and gave it to his son. And then he greeted Death as an old friend, and went with him gladly and equals they departed this life.
Well, there you are. Sorry, those are the Deathly Hallows. The Elder Wand, the Resurrection Stone, the Cloak of Invisibility. Together, they are the Deathly Hallows.
But there's no mention of the words Deathly Hallows in the story.
Well, of course not. That is a child's tale, told to amuse rather than to instruct. Those of us who understand these matters, however, recognize that the ancient story refers to 3 objects, or hallows, which, if united, will make the possessor master of death. Luna ought to have enough plimpies soon. When you say master of death, master, conqueror, vanquisher, whichever term you prefer.
But then, do you mean that you believe these objects, these hallows, actually exist?
Well, of course.
But, Mr. Lovegood, how can you possibly believe?
Luna told me all about you, young lady. You are, I gather, not an unintelligent, but painfully limited, narrow, close-minded. Perhaps you ought to try on the hat, Hermione.
Mr. Lovegood, we all know that there are such things as invisibility cloaks. They are rare, but they exist.
But the 3rd hallow is a true cloak of invisibility, Miss Granger. I mean to say, it's not a travelling cloak imbued with a disillusionment charm, or carrying a bedazzling hex, or else woven from demuse hair, which is to hide one initially, but fade over the years until it turns opaque. We are talking about a cloak that really and truly renders the wearer completely invisible, and endures eternally, giving constant and impenetrable concealment, no matter what spells are cast at it. How many cloaks have you seen like that, Miss Granger? Exactly. None of you have ever seen such a thing. The possessor would be immeasurably rich, would he not?
All right. Say the cloak exists. What about the stone, Mr. Lovegood? The thing you call the Resurrection Stone?
What of it?
Well, how can it be real?
Prove that it is not.
I'm sorry, but that's completely ridiculous. How can I possibly prove it doesn't exist? Do you expect me to get hold of all the pebbles in the world and test them? I mean, you could claim anything's real if the only basis for believing in it is that nobody's proven it doesn't exist.
Yes, you could. I'm glad to see that you are opening your mind a little.
So the Elder Wand, do you think that exists too?
Oh, well, in that case, there is endless evidence. The Elder Wand is the hallow that is most easily traced because of the way which is possessed from hand to hand. Which is what? What is the possessor of the wand must capture it before the previous owner, if he is to be truly master of it. Surely you have heard that wand came from Egbert the Erigonius, after his slaughter Emmerich the Evil. Oh, how Godlick died in his own cell after his own Hairwolf took the wand from him. Oh, dreadful Loxias, who took the wand from Barbanus Deverell, whom he killed. The bloody trail of the Elder Wand is splattered across the pages of wizarding history. So, where do you think the Elder Wand is now? Alas, who knows? Who knows where the Elder Wand lies hidden? The trail goes cold with Arcus and Livius. Who can say which of them really defeated Loxias, which took the wand? And who can say who may have defeated them? History, alas, does not tell us.
Mr. Lovegood, does the Peverell family have anything to do with the Deathly Hallows?